Welcome into the Bestball Fantasy Podcast. Tonight, we have a special edition. We've got the band back together. Billy Muzio, Bradley Stalder here on the Bestball Fantasy Football Podcast. Tonight, we'll be doing a live draft on drafters.com, and the room is almost full. So if you are watching and you haven't jumped in, there are still 2 spots available in the Drafters Million NFL Best Ball Championship. And if you haven't used the promo code BESTBELL for a first-time deposit, make sure you do. It gives you a bonus $10 deposit. So, Billy, thanks for joining me. You've now embarked on new endeavors. You are now the senior high-stakes analyst for Full-Time Fantasy. How are you doing today?
Thanks, buddy. It's nice to see you. Nice to hear your voice again. Got the band back together. We're going to be hanging out doing a draft tonight. What better way to spend my night? So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, let me pull up the shared screen. We're going to go here, Chrome tab, Drafters, share. And for those unfamiliar with drafters.com, make sure that you check it out. There's a big best ball championship happening right now. Their total prize is $1 million, $250,000 to first place, and a 16% win rate. So like the top 16% or so will get their not just money back, but double their money. I was telling Billy, this is a pretty good deal for fantasy players who are interested in competing. We have 1 spot left in the fast draft. And a few things about this tournament. One is that it is a single quarterback, full PPR, start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. And we're going to start. Excellent. So we're in the draft room. Billy's here. We've got a few other favorites, Wheeler and Eagles, joining us tonight. And Billy, you got the 3rd spot. I've got the 4th spot in this draft. There's also a couple.
Snipe you all day.
Good thing I haven't released my updated rankings yet, but here we are. And yeah, there are a couple other things about the Drafters Fantasy that you want to click I am ready, let's draft. A few other things I like about it. It is full PPR, so that does change your strategy a little bit. And when I was drafting on Underdog, the Superflex tournament was a big part of that. So now we're back to the 1 quarterback. What is your philosophy and attitude, philosophy and approach with these 1 quarterback tournaments?
I push the value down. Like I'll just wait until I can find somebody that I like or the value presents itself. Last year when I took 3rd in one of those national championships, it was hitting on a late quarterback. And I think that, if you're spinning up early, and this is just my personal belief, but if you're spinning up early on a quarterback, you have to hit at a higher rate on a positional player where you can, if you flop that, you can now pick a positional player early, like a running back or a wide receiver, or if you want to pay up for tight end, you can. But if you're hitting on a late quarterback, I think you just have a far better chance of winning one of these tournaments because you are drafting, positional player is going to be pumping out kind of higher averages as the season is progressing.
And this is also a start 3 wide receiver. So how does that change versus the 2 wide receiver tournaments?
Wide receivers will go early and often. This will be my first draft actually at Drafters ever. So I'm going to see how it goes on, but reading the structure, it's very similar to, other sites I play at, including the FFWC. So I think that it'll be pretty similar in that regards, with the exception of 1 less flex. So I think that we're going to see wide receivers go early and often.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to share the link in the chat. That's one of the things about the Drafters Fantasy that you can send the messages in the chat. And I'm up. You go, Christian McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp went off the board before you. And I'm going to take Justin Jefferson here. So I think Justin Jefferson has the chance to be the wide receiver 1. He's been the wide receiver 1 or 2 for your best ball lineups already. And I'm really optimistic about the Minnesota Vikings offense going into 2022.
Yeah, he's definitely my number 1 receiver this year in my rankings. I mean, it was tough between him, Chase, and Jefferson. They're all kind of splitting hairs at that point. But you just look at what Justin Jefferson has done in his first 2 years. as a rookie, as a sophomore, and just continues to take that next step forward. They reunited Kirk Cousins and back to the band. They did not trade Kirk Cousins or get rid of him. So I'm very excited for Justin Jefferson with the new offense. Probably not going to be as run heavy. So I'm excited to see what happens with him here in 2022.
Okay, after Justin Jefferson, Austin Eckler goes off. Is you and I were both high on Eckler going into 2021. Is he still the running back 3 behind McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor right now?
I think so. I think there's an argument to be made for Joe Mixon, and people aren't going to like that. But I think that you look at what the Bengals have done in terms of upgrading their offensive line. They still have, a pretty heavy, pretty heavy arsenal in the wide receiver core. They grabbed Hurts at tight end. But the big thing to me is this offensive line, much improved here in 2022. We saw what Mixon did in 2021 with the offensive line they had. There's no reason to doubt that he's going to be better in 2022. So I look at it and say, like, he has a real chance at finishing as the running back 1 this year because of the improvements they've made. And I know there's the lovers and the haters of Joe Mixon, but you look at it from like a pure statistical standpoint, there's no way to say that he's going to, he's not set up to have a better year. So I'm pretty high on Mixon again this year. I was, fairly high on him last year, but not as high as I needed to be on him. But I would say that, he's going to put up something similar of what Austin Eckler put up last year in terms of fantasy points.
Oh, I love to hear it. I also love that somebody's reading my Fantasy Pros articles because I put Joe Mixon as one of the players you want to be targeting and has increased value in these best ball tournaments. You mentioned the offensive line. Both of the guards for the Bengals have been replaced, and their PFF grades both improved over 20 points. And then they add Lyle Collins as well. Plus, Hayden Hurst isn't a slouch when it comes to blocking. So all of those plus the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, wheels up for the Bengals offense in 2022.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm pretty excited for Mixon in this year and especially where he's been going drafts. I mean, Wheeler snuck him here in the middle of the first, which is not normal. Right?
No,
I've been seeing him go more at that 2 turn. So Wheeler's listening. He's grabbing him. So I think that, I think eventually though, he'll start sneaking up more into the first round, but it's not normally common to see him go ahead of Derrick Henry or Harris or even Cook in that manner, but I think that we're going to continue to see him climb. So I would not be surprised if that's where he's going come like August.
Well, the bad thing about drafters is I haven't been able to find how to just put up the board without showing my queue or without showing my selections. So I'm going to have to be a little more careful with that. But I went Justin Jefferson and then Mike Evans. I know that's a little early on Evans, but I just can't help myself with Chris Godwin coming off the ACL injury. We're not sure if Gronk's going to be back. And there's not really another wide receiver aside from Russell Gage who's going to be competing for targets with Mike Evans here in this offense, this Tampa Bay offense.
Sorry, I autoed. I was trying to figure out how to move things around. There we go. That's what I get for.
You get Javonte Williams. Okay, so you auto Javonte Williams. Yeah. He was going like at the 1-2 turn on underdog earlier this offseason. Now,
which I said I want no part of. I just
it
was too expensive, and I honestly I don't want him there either. Quite frankly, there's probably one other player that I wanted here over him, but he might make it actually back. Still looks like.
Well, Grody has gone 3 straight running backs, Taylor, Kamara, and Nick Chubb. What's your opinion of starting drafts like these where you have to start 3 wide receivers instead with 3 straight running backs? Is that like a unique build that you're okay with like having a few of, or is that a no-no?
I think I might actually do it myself here. I don't normally like to do it, but the value's there, and then you can just push. You can push other positions down. Like I think I'm going to take. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as well. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones. I just love the amount of opportunities he's going to get in the passing game. You look at games that Devontae Adams when he was out or hurt, and what Jones did in the passing game, his involvement. Normally, I would like to go on 2 wide receivers my first 3 picks and I start 3 wide receiver league, but I think that I'm okay finding some value at wide receiver a little bit later, and that I missed out. Honestly, I wanted Evans. Like you sniped Evans there. I would have taken Evans over Javonte Williams or any of those other running backs, but went a little earlier.
Look, I wrote up or I did a little blurb on the Bestball YouTube channel last night about AJ Brown, and I said that he was a little bit of a fade. He went from a really run heavy offense to also the Titans had one more team rush than the Philadelphia Eagles last year. But the Titans threw it 40 more times. So for AJ Brown to improve, you're going to have to see Jalen Hurts take steps forward. And I'm not sure if he can take steps forward necessary for Brown to be more than the wide receiver 10, I think, or return value on that.
Yeah, I'm not high on AJ Brown right now. I honestly won't take him inside like the top 20 wide receivers, and he'll never make it there. Like people will just continue to draft him based on his name. And honestly, I haven't finalized my rankings, but he'll probably finish in like probably between like 19 and 23 in my wide receiver rankings.
Ooh, that's a little spicy, but you just need a couple house calls from AJ Brown, and he's able to hit it. It's he hits.
Look at the volume though. There's just not a lot of. He went to like from like the lowest passing volume offense to arguably now the lowest passing volume offense, and they still have Miles Sanders there, who's also can catch. Like unlike Derrick Henry, like Miles Sanders can actually catch the ball. They still have Gainwell who can catch the ball. They've Goddard there. They actually have a tight end. They have Devonta Smith. Like there's other pieces there that are actually able to catch the ball as well. So I don't think it bodes well for his fantasy value in 2022. There's a lot of competition for targets, and there's not a lot of vacated targets, quite frankly, compared to a lot of these other teams. Like Tennessee, for instance, has like the second most vacated targets in the NFL, and you look at that, and that would have boded very well for his fantasy value. That's why I like Burks this year, where I didn't really like his tape. But in terms of opportunity, what's available for fantasy points, you and I have preached year after year after year, opportunity is king, and the opportunity just isn't there in Philadelphia like it was in Tennessee. And I just don't think it's gonna don't think he's going to get nearly as many looks and as many opportunities as he had in the past.
Well, he's also struggled to stay on the field. We've seen him deal with those knee injuries from time to time, but when he has been on the field, he's hitting your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 spots at some of the highest rates in the NFL. So even on those low volume offenses of the Tennessee Titans over the last few years, we've seen boom plays, but maybe we see a lower floor this year. I think we see a lower floor for AJ Brown. I'm okay taking him as my wide receiver 3 here, though. All right. Yes. Off the Schneid has noticed that I've been sandwiched by 3 running back back-to-back takes. And, I'm left with Michael Pittman, Darren Waller, Chris Godwin, Jerry Jeudy. There's
you got your boy Travis Etienne.
I do, and I'm down to 12 seconds. I'm going to take George Kittle here. And I'm going to do it because of the upside. Kittle is one of the highest ceiling tight ends. Like aside from Travis Kelce, he can hit those ceilings unlike almost any other tight end in the NFL. But we're not sure what the San Francisco offense is going to be. There have been all these rumors about Trey Lance, and I'm not sure what to believe. Billy, what are you believing about Trey Lance for 2022 and the Jimmy Garoppolo situation?
I mean, we knew he was a raw talent coming out of college. I was so pissed off they traded up for him to begin with. Like, I just didn't think he was going to be ready. And here we are in 2022, and I still don't think he's quite ready. I think the passing volume is going to suffer. I don't think we're going to see nearly as much passing volume as we've seen in the past. 1 second, I'm on the clock. Oh, man. Yeah, I guess I'll go that route. I just don't think we're going to see the passing volume that we.
Yes.
Yeah, I would not take another running back. I think I think it's definitely going to hurt the passing game altogether. I honestly that's why I like Mitchell a little bit more than a lot of people this year, especially with Debo expressing his concerns or very, letting people know that he does not like to be a hybrid back, or hybrid wide receiver as much. So I would expect that if he does stay, he's probably not going to see him in the backfield much at all this year, if at all. And that opens up the more running opportunities for someone like Mitchell. Yes, they spent some capital on a running back this year, and yes, Trey Lance can run the ball, but I think that those kind of negate all the opportunities that Debo was taking. So I like the running game more, but Lance is an intriguing prospect, right? Can run the ball, can throw the ball, but I'm wonder how well he's going to do it at the NFL level here in year 2.
You aren't worried at all about TDP eating into Elijah Mitchell's workload?
I think he'll definitely be involved. But that to me is more of a Trey Sermon replacement, right? You look at Mitchell and what he did down the stretch, and when he was healthy and when he was on the field, but you also watch tape and you watch Trey Sermon run the ball. It looked like a literally stiff as a board out there trying to, get in the end zone or even just run to the back of his own O-line. So to me, Trey Sermon does not fit the scheme of the Niners, and he just doesn't look comfortable running the ball in the NFL. I think that was his replacement, and I definitely think that Shanahan will continue to use Mitchell. I think they just really like Mitchell and what he brings to the table.
Mitchell is my sleeper running back to lead the NFL in rushing yards. They trusted him so much, and not just trusted, but like he was coming off of multiple injuries, and then right out of the gate, coming out of those injuries, they gave him 17 to 25 carries a game.
Yeah, and he continued to. I mean, it seems like he deteriorated a little bit, like his body kind of broke down on him. And I think that's probably why they grabbed the other back. But you look at when he was on the field, regardless of who else was playing, like they continue to just lean on him and give him 80% of the carries, if not more. And so I think that maybe you're not going to see maybe that much volume this year, but 65, 70, sure. I think that's still within their own possibilities.
Okay, so we've seen a lot of wide receivers go off here. We're down to Brandon Cooks right now, Darnell Mooney, Devonta Smith, and Rashad Bateman. So Rashad Bateman now pegs in as the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. How shocking was it for you to see Marquise Brown traded to Arizona? And then do you believe that Rashad Bateman can step up into that wide receiver 1 role that we saw Marquise Brown handle the last couple of years?
I'm not going to say anything till Wheeler picks because he's listening and he wants to try to listen to our opinions before he makes his pick. So I'm going to delay here for another 12 to 13 seconds until he makes his pick, and then I'll go ahead and give my takes. Good. Okay. So I think Bateman is going to take a step forward. I really do. There's just, again, low passing volume offense, but you look at after he came back from injury and was involved and started making catches, he's got really good hands. I think he's a good receiver in general. But I think that he's going to be pretty involved, but the volume is the concern, of course, because of 1 second, I'm on the clock.
Yeah. I did that on purpose. I just hurriedly drafted Tom Brady, to stack with Mike Evans.
This ADP is so much different here compared to what I'm used to. I think we're going to go. I got someone in the queue just in case. Now we'll just go ahead and take it. Okay.
Ayuk. There you go.
Yeah. After I just said I was concerned about Trey Lance. But I still think I'd probably put maybe a 15 to 20% chance that Debo gets traded. I don't think it's likely at this point after the draft, but if it is, I mean, where does Ayuk move up the board, right? That's kind of where I've been hedging. Really? He took Russell Wilson? I thought he'd probably make it back. He took him over Burrow?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Wow. Over Burrow. I thought for sure one of these guys would take
Burrow.
He's
stacking with Judy, so.
Yeah, I guess I should have looked at that more. I have Sutton and Javonte. I should have taken it.
It's okay.
Okay. Well, now I push.
Shrug it off.
Now I push. Man, I don't like that. That sucks.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah, it happens. Okay, let's take a look here on the clock again. This timer, 30 seconds, man. I'm not used to that other than underdog. Let's go ahead. Let's lock it in. There we go. All right.
Oh, I love Adam Thielen there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's late.
Holy buckets.
I almost took him in place of Ayuk. But
and I'm on the clock. Shoot. Whatever you pick, I'm like, wait, oh no. All right. So looks like I'm gonna draft some Eagles. Devonta Smith, they're way below ADP. Like I gotta keep the draft honest here.
Yeah.
And the Drafters Fantasy Sports Tournament is not an end of year tournament like a qualifier. It is a sum total of all of your points over the course of the season. So that's a difference in how you might not have to worry about the schedule. Like this is an okay time for you to be drafting and not know the schedule, even though I think it's going to be released tomorrow, correct?
It is tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah. So like you don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to match up those week 17 high flying, offenses and target the tournament? No, like it's more so focused on those individual players and are those good players going to be hitting regularly throughout the season?
It also gives you a chance to draft somebody like DeAndre Hopkins more too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Hopkins right now, he's going as wide receiver.
Pick 71.
Yeah, pick 71 way late after Ayuk and Bateman and Mooney. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was not having a good year last year before the injury, but I mean, now he's a full fade, and I mean, we're getting him end of round 6. So
yep, that's late. I've seen him go later though. In 3 wide receiver leagues, I understand why he's going here, but I've seen him go later in other drafts as well. Just depends on your how much risk you want to take on and what your build is. I think that's his 4th receiver. I think that's fine.
Yeah, 4th receiver, absolutely. All right, Devonta Smith last year was never a wide receiver 1. Like he never made your wide receiver 1 spot, but he made your wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 spots like 27% of the time. And so that's pretty good as a rookie. I know that he's now going to be competing against AJ Brown, but still, like, I think wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 being your wide receiver 4 spot, that's not too bad. Especially getting into value. Although we've seen,
is there a way that you can like expand the board?
Like scroll up? I don't know.
Oh, there's this plus and minus button.
Yeah, the plus and minus. Yeah. So the minus actually moves it up and plus moves it down. So
yeah, I was
thinking more of the board.
I was like scrolling up and then someone would pick and it still does it. It jumps me all the way down. It's weird. It moves my board every time someone picks.
Yeah, it does automatically move it.
That's kind of annoying. This is my first draft over here for people who are tuning in.
Like, Billy's complaining. He's going to call up draft and be like, these are the things I need changed right now.
Yeah. Change it. Stop moving my board.
All right.
Maybe if I zoom in, I mean, maybe it won't let me rotate the board then maybe. Let's try that. If I go at that, like on the round it is. Nope, still does it. It jumps.
Yes, I get Russell Gage. Let's go. Gage is my boy. And now he's on the Buccaneers, Billy.
Yeah.
Billy knows my long history and love for Russell Gage. Since, what was it, entering the 2020 season, I had been just preaching Russell Gage. And Billy had rolled his eyes all the way to Canada.
I did. I thought it was going to be Olamide Zacchaeus. How wrong was I?
Pretty wrong. Pretty
wrong. Pretty gross.
Oh, man. Yeah, so Oh man, we've seen some value here. We'll see if any of that value gets scooped up by that Philly kid or Grody, but we'll see. This is a full PPR as well, which I think shifts pretty significantly. Oh, we've had 2 Bears signings in the last little bit. Dante Pettis Jr. is signing with the Bears.
Gross.
that's a needle mover, right, Billy?
So bad. What is that? That team signed like 7 undrafted free agents too from this rookie draft at the wide receiver position.
It's so gross. And then let me see here. There was another one that happened. Tajay Sharp just signed with the Bears as well. So the Bears are just throwing people against the wall and seeing who will stick.
Shit against the wall is what you meant to say.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Okay, I need a running back too, and Chase Edmonds is just hanging out there. I am not worried about Sony Michel in a full PPR taking away Chase Edmonds. At worst case, Chase Edmonds is still a running back too, because that's what he was when he was getting workload last year with James Conner in Arizona. Like, talk me out of Chase Edmonds in round 9.
I like Chase Edmonds a lot. I like him a little less with Sony Michel there, just because we probably see Sony take on more of that 1-2 role, and Edmonds kind of that third down change. I think it's going to be very similar to the role he had in inside of Arizona. But there is also a chance, like you look at the money, you follow the money too. Like there's a chance that Sony could be cut as well based upon the money that they signed him to. So it's interesting to see how it breaks down. I still like Edmonds a lot. I still think he's going to be the lead back there. I just don't know how much volume we're going to see with the amount of heads and rotation that could be rotated through this backfield. But I think round 9 is still a good value. I expect him to drop more with the news of Sony Michel. I think he'll probably start falling into the, maybe the 10th round again. Early drafts, we're seeing him in the 11th and 12th. I think those days are gone, but I definitely can see Edmonds falling back in the 10th after the signing. But I will scoop up all the time in that late 9 and early 10.
Well, over the last 3 years, Chase Edmonds has been a running back 1. Like, it filled in that running back 1 spot in your best ball lineups about 4% of the time. Been in your running back 2 spot about 5% of the time, and your flex spot about 9% of the time. So, and last year he was hitting at almost 20% of your best ball lineups. So in an increased role, we could see that move even more. Yeah, so that, which was about the same spot as, Antonio Gibson was a higher rated running back too, but like he has the same upside as Antonio Gibson. Are we saying that? Did I say that out loud? Yikes! Yikes! I put out an article of fantasy, or I'm working on an article for Fantasy Pros about players you need to avoid in best ball, and Antonio Gibson is one of them, because not only is his ceiling capped out because the J.D. McKissick re-signing, but also now we have Brian Robinson who might eat into his floor.
Yeah, Brian Robinson, I think, is going to be a plotter year 1. I think he's just going to be short line, short yardage back, goal line back, probably gets mixed in on third downs because he's actually a pretty damn good pass blocker. But I still think that Gibson is the back to own.
Okay, so this is a 20-round draft instead of the 18 that Underdog's Best Ball Mania drafts are.
I hate they went back to 18.
How does that change your attitude or your strategy when it comes to wide receivers? Because we have to start 3, and you hope that a wide receiver is in your flex spot. Like, how many wide receivers are you willing to take in a 20-rounder versus 18?
9, 10, I think. I depends upon
like almost half of your lineup or your draft spots.
I think I'm going to be more in that 9 range, but it just depends upon who your wide receiver 1 is. Like you look over, like Eagles probably is going to have close to 10, right? He's got 1, 2, 3 right now. That's probably more of a 10 wide receiver build. But I think it just depends on how what your roster construction is. Oh, I'm on the clock. 1 second.
I did that on purpose again.
Yes. Is there a rookie button where you can just sort by rookies? No, I don't see anything.
No, but you can sort by teams. So you can just click on the team button and that really helps me sort through like the stacks and predetermine in my queue.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Wide receiver 7, I think. Is that my 7th receiver? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that works. Okay.
Okay. So you took Kenny Galladay there. Was he just, I need another wide receiver, or is there some glimmer of hope with Kenny G in New York?
I think that's a glimmer of hope. I look at receivers whenever they change teams or offenses and kind of expect a down year for them in year one with a new system, a new coach, a new quarterback. But you come back in and you have, again, I guess you do have a new system and a new coach again. But you look at he's got another year with Daniel Dimes, and I think the chemistry was, I guess, more built, I should say. And I would expect him to have a little bit better of a year.
All right, you're on the clock, and I'm getting trade proposals in Sleeper right now. Gross. Someone wants essentially Alvin Kamara. I get Alvin Kamara, and they get Javonte Williams. Smash decline. It was Job's, by the way.
That sounds like a Job's offer.
Okay, we're gonna complete the Tampa Bay stack. I don't even know if Gronk is coming back, but if he is, Rob Gronkowski has been the height of ceiling in PPR for tight ends over the last why is it not sorting? Over the last 3 years. Like, it's been Gronk and Kelsey and Andrews, and that's it, pretty much. Aside from, well, in this order, Kelsey over the last 3 years, the tight end win rate. So the percentile adjusted rate of a tight end getting 16.5 fantasy points, because that's going to be like an elite tier tight end. Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Gronk. So I have Kittle and Gronk as my tight ends. I'm not going to draft a third tight end. Essentially, those guys are going to get me there or not in this draft. And then
don't hate it.
I have
especially if Gronk plays. If he doesn't play, I think you're screwed.
Yeah. Grumble. Win or go home. And then I've got the Jefferson Kirk Cousins stack, because I do believe in the Minnesota Vikings. I mentioned the Vikings as a wide receiver group that I want all of the pieces of. If I want to take like different stabs of teams, like I want the Minnesota Vikings, given the hopefully pass heaviness, but also we've seen like KJ Osbourne have spike weeks. We've seen Emir Smith-Marset have spike weeks. And so I want a couple pieces of that.
Yeah. Gronkowski, I think if he does play, and I think there's a pretty damn good chance, I'd probably say it's a 70% chance he's back. But if he does play, the value is so big, because you're looking at an easy top 6-7 tight end. But if he does not play and you only have one tight end, I usually go 3 tight end builds when I have Gronkowski's teams, just because kind of hedging bets there, right? It's like a late, like around 20 ad or something like that, just to ensure I have somebody else, especially if it's Kittle, because he one of the hardest playing tight ends in the league. You always have to be concerned with injury.
Fair enough. Those are some of the best tight ends who also, if they get a lot of usage, it's a miracle, I think, that Travis Kelce has missed no games, since his torn ACL. What was it, at the beginning of his career, year 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, many sites with best ball tournaments, many new ones that have been launching lately. So I'll be doing a lot of these drafts and drafters, and when Underdog gets their act together and comes back to Michigan, I'll be doing some of those too, Best Ball Mania. But yeah, I'm on the clock here, and I'm looking for running back upside, and I don't want Raheem Mostert. I'm going to go Isaiah Spiller. If anything happens to Austin Eckler, I think it's going to be Spiller. Spiller was drafted in the 4th round. He's got decent draft capital. He can catch passes like Austin Eckler, not the same capacity, but if you're looking for a handcuff, I think Isaiah Spiller is going to be the type of running back handcuff that you want to target, and he's cheaper than Alexander Madison, as we've seen.
Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking. I'm on the clock here again a second. This goes fast on this turn.
It does. The turns are tight on here. Oh, I like the Jamison Crowder pick there by that Philly kid. I think that Jamison Crowder still has a lot left in the tank, and he's shown over the last 3 seasons that he can access ceilings. Even when he was on the Jets, he was getting high target shares and converting that into fantasy points. Let me pull up the 3-year wide receiver winner data that I have. And Jamison Crowder, Control F, Crowder, not CeeDee Lamb, Crowder, was making your best ball lineups like almost 40% of the time over the last 3 years in the games that he played, which is around the same amount as like CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool, Sterling Shepard. So I don't think Crowder on the Bills is a bad pick. Oh, but I just got autoed. Devontae Parker. Not a bad pick either. I don't hate Parker on the New England Patriots.
Is there anywhere on here that tells you how to go keep scrolling up and counting? Like it'll tell you your build, like
yes. So if you look here,
over the receiver position, or over the positions. Okay,
over the positions. So right now, I have 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends.
Okay, I like that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got my 8 receivers.
And Billy's just getting his bearings here on drafters.com.
Yeah, trying to get shit organized. I'm lost in space right now, trying to figure things out. But only 1 auto pick for the first time. That's not too bad. Trying to get things situated.
I just got infatuated with Jamison Crowder. That's my bad.
And looking at how this board turned out, I actually don't mind starting 3 running backs now with how the team turned out. Got the core, haven't touched the position since.
I mean, you got the Pittman, Matt Ryan stack.
Yeah.
And you got the Daniel Jones, Kenny Golladay.
And Tony.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
man, missing out on Russell Wilson, that's a difference maker right there.
Yeah, that kind of tilted me. I missed he had Judy. I was looking at that side and just saw, I think he'll take Burrow ahead of Wilson. That my plan was to take him, but I'm fine with it now with how it turned out. Sutton, I think, is going to be more of the DK Metcalf in that offense. So I really like Sutton this year. I liked him a lot in other years too.
I think in half PPR, Sutton is the better play than Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Full PPR, I think a case can be made that Judy's better, but Judy's really struggled to show upside over the last couple seasons in the way that Cortland Sutton, he's shown that he can achieve like those top 6 wide receiver weekly finishes. Jerry Jeudy he hasn't done it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Judy's a great route runner, but he just hasn't he's had the most target separation too in the NFL last year, but it hasn't shown up on like statistics. So I think this is the year. I really do. Like you look at who his quarterbacks have been, and I think that we finally see Jeudy become fantasy relevant. But I think in general, this offense is just going to be a lot more potent. And you look at this conference, and this is going to be one of the best conferences in the NFL too, as well. So I have pretty high hopes for the Broncos here this year, and it'd be interesting to see how it's kind of divvied up because they have a lot of mouths to feed. It's Javonte Williams, they have Melvin Gordon, they have Albert OK, they have Jeudy, they have Sutton, they have there's just Patrick's not a slump either, right? They have KJ too, so there's a lot of players here.
You heard the quote today that KJ Hamler wants to be Russell Wilson's Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, and I was going to respond that I wanted to be, like Warren Buffett's like I want him to be my sugar daddy or something. It's not. You can't always just say it's what
Can't
you
always
want.
get what you
you're gonna
want.
get. Yeah, it's like you got to perform, man. So
There was a philosopher Jagger once, and he said, "You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need."
you get what you need. Oh yeah.
All right, I'm up. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. KJ Osbourne is the pick here in round 14. That it gives me 7 wide receivers, 3 running backs, and I got my 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. And you're on the clock here.
Yeah, I don't think I want.
Noah Fant. If I didn't have the tight ends that I have, I probably would have considered a Fant, coming back around the turn. But
around 14, it's just late.
He was the tight end 1 for weekly finish on 2 different occasions last year. I know it was on the Denver Broncos, but I mean, the Denver Broncos, as we said before, they weren't a good offense, and they were led by Drew Locke and Teddy Bridgewater. It just, Noah Fant was the outlet, and he might be the outlet yet again for Drew Locke in Seattle. Although, what do you think, Gino Smith or Drew Locke?
I think it's going to be Gino. I do. He's already been in the system. He showed competent last year. I mean, I guess fairly competent, I guess, but he has, some rapport with the receivers, and I don't know. I'm going to give Gino the early lean right now.
Yeah, I was looking at Player Profiler's Dominator app, and they had side-by-side comparisons of Geno Smith and Drew Locke, and it was majority in favor of Geno Smith. And we saw that last year where in comparing those player profiles, Teddy Bridgewater versus Drew Locke, it was clearly Teddy Bridgewater. And so I would also lean Geno Smith right now.
Yeah, it's just it's just a hunch too, I guess, but I just feel like I feel like that's the way it's going to break down. I mean, unless Locke has some great camp or they trade for somebody, but it doesn't seem to be that. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the scenario.
All right. There's still some interesting wide receivers out there, in the abyss.
Still a lot of good players out there.
Yeah. Wait, Robbie Anderson is Robbie? I thought it was Robby.
No, I think it's IE.
Really? My life is. I'm questioning everything in my world right now.
You know something I learned today?
What'd you learn?
Did you know that there's not a single odd number that doesn't have an E in it?
I knew that.
I don't know what to do with that information, but it's pretty amazing.
Did you know that there is a 7-year-old playing in the NFL?
Who?
Eric Kendricks.
Did you know Taco Cat spelled backwards is Taco Cat?
Don't you want to know why Eric Kendricks is 7 years old?
No, I'm more interested in Taco Cats.
Taco Cat. Yeah, it's palindrome, like race car, Palindromes are life, Billy. It's because of leap year. He was born on February 29th.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Off the Schneid comes in and he tells us it's Robbie with a Y, 100%. There you go. Thanks for saving me, Off the Schneid.
It is a Y. Do they have it spelled in here? I just Googled it. Wait, this article has it with an IE, and this article has it with a Y.
Whoa.
Pro Football Reference has it. So Twitter has. Hold up. Robbie Anderson on Twitter is with an IE. His own account.
All right. We have definitive answers here. Off the Schneid, you've let me down.
Yeah. Robbie Anderson's own Twitter account is IE, and it's verified.
Wow. Okay.
That changes.
There you go.
The Pro Football Reference has it with a Y, just for what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson did not have a good year last year.
No, he did not.
Oh man. I'm gonna go Donta Foreman there.
Actually, out of the top, I was gonna stack cuff that. You just sniped me, bastard.
I'm sorry.
All right. Let's change the plans. I guess I'll go with the plotter. I said he was gonna have short yardage goal line carries.
I was thinking about Brian Robinson there too.
They were at the top of my queue.
Oh, did he change it? Is this a Mandela effect? Do you know what the Mandela effect is?
I do not.
It's when like the general consensus thinks something has existed and it definitely hasn't. Like everyone has this false memory. For instance, there's a movie that everyone thinks exists called Shazam with
Shaq.
With Shaq. That doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Like it doesn't exist. So that's the Mandela effect. So I guess Robbie with an IE, I apologize. That is my mistake. My bad. Okay. So right now my build is a 2-4-7-3 build. I'm gonna I need to take another running back here. Zamir White. You were talking up Zamir White earlier.
Love Zamir.
You said maybe more of a 2023 pick because the Raiders did decline Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option, but he's not a pass catcher, maybe not a target. But I told you by the middle end of 2022, he might be splitting carries or even in the lead. We've seen the Raiders with bizarre usage for Josh Jacobs from time to time.
Yeah, and I could see a scenario to where like let's just say that a team loses a running back to injury and they're making a push before the trade deadline and they inquire about Josh Jacobs and the Raiders might be inclined to let him go. I mean, you look at the history of McDaniels and running backs in New England and is using a running back by committee approach, and he may not need Josh Jacobs in that committee at that time. So I would say with them declining their 5th option, it's very possible that they can get something for nothing at the end of the season if that is the scenario.
I mean, it would be a savvy move for the Raiders, and moving into Zamir White, I think would be a smart move by the end of the year. And that's why I think too, he's an interesting like all season play. Mm-hmm. Like you probably don't want him for tournament plays because he's not going to help you get there. Probably not.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows? He could be this year's Elijah Mitchell, right? He could take over this backfield by storm. Like he was my running back 3 heading into the draft. So the talent is there. Like he's explosive. He's dynamic. I really like him as a player. You look at just the offense and who's all there. So I think that if he's given the opportunity, I think he could run with it. He's that good of a running back. And I think he's very underrated in this draft class. So I hope he gets the opportunity because I own a lot of them in early drafts, but I would say that he's definitely going to see the field more than people probably think. Shania says it's Shazam with Sinbad. He's just correcting us left and right.
It's Shazam with Sinbad. That's what I'm saying, though, is everyone thinks that it's Shaquille O'Neal. But no, it's a false memory. It's a false memory.
I'm still going to say it's Shaquille O'Neal. I refuse to believe this, Bradley.
I love that this is good. Okay. Oh man. Vegas DFS has gone Trubisky, Mariota, and Winston as the only quarterback, and Deshaun Watson. Ooh, a 4 quarterback build. I can't get behind that.
No, I can't do 4 quarterbacks either.
KJ Hamler. All right, Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I think I'll just go 2 quarterbacks, Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins. I did sneak in some Irv Smith. I think he's got upside, but also he can zero out. Like if he misses a blocking assignment, he's not a good blocker. So if he misses a blocking assignment, he could be riding the bench for a little bit or lose snaps to like Zach Davidson, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's got upside. It's just there's downside to Irv Smith.
Definitely.
Okay. I also I got into a little bit of a Twitter barb with Josh Larkey, our friend Josh Larkey of FTN. He he wanted Amari Rodgers over Randall Cobb, and I'm very pro Randall Cobb. So we
I would
had
take Amari Rodgers over Randall Cobb too.
Well, I feel outnumbered, but that's okay.
I think they're both not going to be that involved, but if I had to pick, I was hoping that I banked. I had a bunch of early drafts where I was just drafting Amari Rodgers in the round 20, like every single time. And it was, early drafts when they had nobody on the roster. And I still don't think they're going to go out and sign that much. They might get one vet, but I still think there's opportunity for him to see the field. Cobb at this point in his career is just a shell of himself. He's more of just the friend that Aaron Rodgers needed there on the team than a true receiver. But Romeo Dubes is a better player. You have Watson, who has the skill set to be a better player. He's a little raw, I think, but he has the skills definitely necessary to be successful. You hear in reports that they're interested in trying to get Odell Beckham. You hear reports that they're trying to get Laundry, which makes the most sense for me. But
I think Landry is definitely the player that if I'm the Packers, I want on my team.
Yeah, that's perfect sense. But if Landry lands there, like rest in peace, Cobb and Amari Rodgers,
sure.
like they're not even seeing the light of day, right? That's the scenario that you don't want any of it. But I don't think either one of those guys is going to have a significant role to where it's really going to matter.
Well, over the last 3 seasons, Randall Cobb, he hasn't filled in any wide receiver 1 spots for you in best ball, but 18%, 19% of the time he's scored 16.5 fantasy points or more for you. And even last year, he was at 17% of the time getting at least 16.5 fantasy points. 3 of his 13 games, he had at least 16.5 PPR fantasy points. So if Amari Rodgers still doesn't hit and the Packers don't sign someone, like it would be off brand for the Packers to sign a veteran wide receiver like a Jarvis Landry. I know that they've been tied to them, but it makes me nervous.
Yeah.
We're drafting May 11th. I mean, what do we know? Things are going
to we know everything right now, Bradley. No, it's completely like there's so many things are going to change.
Yeah, unless anyone takes Emir Smith-Marset before I do, he's going to be my last pick in this draft, just to do all the Minnesota stacking, put my money where my mouth is.
The other one I've been really liking, I don't know if he went, I haven't looked yet, is and I owe this one to who was it? I'm blanking right now on the name. That's going to bother me, but it was Nick
Herzig?
Westbrook. No, it wasn't Herzig. It was man, who was it? It's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to find him on my Twitter comments. 1 second. We were talking about this spreadsheet and everything. That's it. Mike Sonda. It was we were discussing Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and the opportunity that he has in Tennessee, right? And like there's a real argument to be made for you should be drafting him, right? In terms of opportunity and targets and having familiarity with the team. So I think that it is it's a sneaky ad if you need another receiver late in drafts.
It feels gross, but I get the volume argument.
Mm-hmm.
I get the volume argument because I mean it's a low pass volume offense, but the only other wide receiver who's going to be good to go come September is going to be Treylon Burks. Robert Woods is coming off the ACL injury from last season, and right now we don't know if he's going to be making it back for week 1, much less even halfway through the season.
Did you see who I added last draft? I've been kind of doing this in drafts as of the last couple of weeks. And it feels gross, but you look at who's on the roster. Do you know who the running backs are right now on the Giants roster?
It's Matt Breida and Saquon Barkley because they cut Devontae Booker.
Yeah, there's literally nobody there. And you'd think that they were going to add somebody, but they haven't yet. And so maybe they really are going to just roll out with Barkley and Breida. And if that's the scenario, we know that Barkley hasn't been the poster child of health lately. Like Breida could be a pretty sneaky ad here in drafts late.
Oh,
You know, I mean, there's behind
gross,
him
but yes, I get it.
is behind him is Gary Brightwell, Antonio Williams, and I can't even say that last guy's name. It's like Platzgummer or something. I don't even know who the hell that is.
Platzgummer.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sandro Platzgummer is the guy's name.
I think he's a fullback-ish player.
I don't. You could tell me he was your fairy godmother. I wouldn't know. Like I don't know who he is. I've never even heard his name.
Well, Wheeler, I appreciate you not sniping Smith Marset. And Off the Schneid is appalled that a Packers homer would be, taking all these Vikings. But here we are. Wheeler is saying Barkley's going to win me all these pre-draft tournaments. Billy, let's recap the teams real quick. I had a 2-6-9-3 draft. I don't know where you'd see yours, but I'd probably click view my team.
I have a 3-6-8-3.
3-6-8-3.
Yep.
And I started with or let's go with your team and then you can talk about my team. And then we'll call it a night. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started off with McCaffrey at the 3. It was between McCaffrey and Jefferson for me. And I usually like to build anchor running back teams. So McCaffrey was the pick for me. I got autoed in round 2, but I looking back on it in hindsight, I actually like it now. I would have liked Evans there, but you sniped me. So Javonte Williams being my running back 2, and then getting Aaron Jones, who honestly I probably would have taken ahead of Javonte Williams had I made the pick. So getting both of those actually worked out because I was able to kind of use those as my anchor running back build here, those 3, and not have to touch the position again until round 16. And just say, hey, if one of these backs go down, this team's probably not going to do much anyway. So from there, I just went like 8 wide receivers straight. So just got my core, got a lot of good talent. Pittman, Sutton, Ayuk, Thielen, Tony, Kirk, Golladay, and Williams, all guys who are going to have significant roles on their teams, all guys who should see significant target share, and all that have a decent chance at touchdown upside as well, with the exception of maybe Kirk or Williams early. But I think that from there, then I decided to just stack with the quarterbacks. So was able to take Matt Ryan to stack with Pittman and Daniel Jones to stack with the rest of my Giants and Mills. I actually grabbed Mills. So I was going to do a stack with Mac and a tight end, but they both went ahead of where I thought they were going to go. So that didn't work out. And then Robinson was just a running back I needed, who I'm looking for goal line opportunities there. Didn't really like the pick, but at that point there wasn't a lot of options on the table. And then I went with two tight ends back to back there to kind of shore up the position again, both for stacks. Mo Alley Cox to stack with Matt Ryan and Ricky Seals to stack with Daniel Jones. And then I was able to grab 2 backs that I think are going to be, underdrafted, but should be probably going higher than where they're at. Williams, I think, has a chance to lead this backfield in carries here in 2022 and is going at around 19 and 20s in most drafts. And in some aspects, undrafted in a lot of these drafts as well. But you look at, they released Mike Davis. They have Algier there who has fumbling issues. Williams has been productive in his career when he has been on the field. So I really like his chances of leading this backfield in touches. And so whether it's early or not, but I think that he's probably going to see close to 40 to 45% of the carries, if not more, here for this backfield. You're already hearing reports of Patterson, who's going to be pushed outside more, which was kind of my expectation before the draft, because you looked at what happened to his body and he kind of broke down the stretch. That high ankle sprain was getting, banged up. So it makes more sense as a traditional wide receiver for him to be outside more when they're wide receiver needy, and for them to lean more on Williams and Algier in the backfield. So, and then Breida was again a stack option with upside play if Barkley goes down.
Yeah, I like the Damian Williams, Matt Breida picks to bring it back around at the tail end of your draft. Ryan Robinson, you mentioned, as a plotter, but Antonio Gibson hasn't been a bastion of health. Like, he's not. He didn't play any running back in college, and you wonder if he's built to. I'll leave that behind the scenes. Yeah. I wonder if Antonio Gibson won't be able to hold up, and Brian Robinson does get significant touches. Cody Carpentier projected him to be a day 2 pick, and he was. So he's going to get involved. And yeah, so I like a lot of the picks that you took. Pittman, I think, slots in as a good wide receiver 2, and then you're banking on one of Thielen or Galladay or even Sutton to hit on like that wide receiver 1 spot. And then the rest of them can stack on good days. So I think you took a lot of shots. You went straight through, and I think that even with drafting Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney is going to be a real useful piece in that New York Giants offense. He is reading the playbook from what reports are saying, so that's a good thing. Okay, my team, Justin Jefferson, I think he's the wide receiver 1 right now. Mike Evans, you were upset that I sniped you on him, but I've been wanting the Evans Brady stacks, and that's what I ended up getting in this.
I'm so happy that you're finally on this Evans train. I've been trying to get you on this Evans train for like 2 years, I feel like. And I feel like
watch this year he lets me down,
yeah. Although I looked back at one of the drafts, because I remember last year I was drafting so much Evans, and I looked back at a team, and I remember the comment you made. I took Evans over Cooper Kupp, and I think your comment was, "You're going to regret that pick." And I look back at it, and I regret that pick. But it was like,
it wasn't Evans, a bad pick. It wasn't
a bad pick. But looking at the Cooper Kupp's year in hindsight, of course you're going to regret missing out on arguably the best wide receiver performance you've ever seen in one fantasy football season. But Evans still had a good year. But if you get a do-over, that would be one do-over.
Well, I mean, now Evans isn't competing with Antonio Brown for targets and Chris Godwin as well for part of the season. That's a big part. Mike Evans, this stat blew my mind, Billy. I was looking at target share among wide receivers in the top 24 of fantasy points per game. And in the top 24, the only wide receiver to have a sub 20% target share was Mike Evans at below 17%. It was crazy. So I think that target share goes up, and I think that he's going to slot in really well as my wide receiver 2. AJ Brown, I'm happy with as my wide receiver 3. Travis Etienne, I think, becomes the DeAndre Swift of last year. It's a bad offense that needs the ball moving. There's the shower narrative between Lawrence and Etienne. Etienne's hungry to do well, and not for Urban Meyer. I don't know if you caught that press conference, but Etienne was so
I love that. I love that comment. He's like, I guess if there's a year to miss, last year was the year.
So I think Etienne is anxious to get back on the field. I went Tom Brady to make sure that I got the stack with Evans, and that allowed me to also be stacking some Tampa Bay Buccaneers later on. I got Devonta Smith to correlate with AJ Brown. If Brown gets hurt, then it's going to be Devonta Smith for sure. And then Russell Gage, Chase Edmonds. I've been on the Gage train for years, and Edmonds is the PPR back you want, and I think he'll be just fine as a running back 2 in that spot. Kirk Cousins stacks with my Justin Jefferson, and I felt like I didn't need to address quarterback or have a quarterback 3 with Brady and Cousins. And Gronk Spiller is my running back 3. I mean, I talked about him before. He could fill in the Eckler role, or he could just be a complementary piece and have a couple spike weeks here and there. Devontae Parker was an auto pick, but I still don't hate it. If there's a New England wide receiver with upside, I want Devontae Parker. I think Jacoby Myers is a better redraft play. I think he's a better home league pick. Jacoby Myers is, but I think if you're going for upside, Devontae Parker, the big body touchdown maker, is who you want in that New England offense. And best ball, KJ Osbourne, we saw a couple spike weeks from him. And even if Adam Thielen goes down, we saw what KJ Osbourne could do. And Irv Smith was my tight end 3. You talked me into taking a third tight end, and might as well stack him.
That's late for Irv Smith, so I like that pick there.
Yeah, in the 15th round, I was surprised he lasted that long. That's what she said.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna type it again.
Donta Foreman at Carolina. He was, he's a handcuff type of piece. Same with Zamir White. We've talked about White and Foreman a little bit. KJ Hamler, I think he has the speed and the draft capital that could be interesting to come to fruition in the Denver offense. Chris Evans, I didn't get to talk a lot about Chris Evans, but he was a running back, Dwayne from PFF. He pointed out that Joe Mixon struggled on third down. He struggled in pass protection. And I don't think the Bengals will move back to Samaje Perine as a third down back. That's going to be Chris Evans, who has the best receiving profile of any running back in the Cincinnati Bengals. And he can catch a couple touchdowns. And the full PPR, if he's the one who's getting some of the third down work, I'm not going to hate that later on. Plus, if there's a handcuff who can catch the ball, Chris Evans might be the handcuff you want in Cincinnati instead of Samaje Perine.
Just a better back in Perine too, just more explosive.
And then Amir Smith-Marset, my boy, ISM. All right. Billy, we can follow you on at FF Muzio. You can follow Billy as well at Fulltime Fantasy. You can find a lot of articles and he does regular YouTube videos and analysis for them there. Always involved in their tournaments. Billy, what's hot at Fulltime Fantasy right now?
So we just released the actually it's something I built myself and Scott, of course, went through with the fine tooth comb, but we created a tournament for the Superflex Bowl. It's a Superflex Bestball tournament, 20 rounds. It's also start 3 wide receivers. There's a 1 flex position. The second flex position is the super flex position. So that is new. Only 600 entries, which is really cool. So the chances of winning are a lot higher than a lot of these national contests. So 5,000 up top. If you place in first or second inside your league, you automatically go on to the championship rounds. And then you are guaranteed double your money. And then from there, it breaks down 5,000, trickles down. And it's a little bit more dispersed than a lot of these top heavy tournaments. So don't quote me, but I think it's like 5,000, then like 2,500. And then it breaks down every couple $100 from there. But the cool thing about it is, unlike a lot of these best ball tournaments where it's a lot of this pass through stuff, right? It's rounds 14 is the end of the season. 15, you got to be in the top 2 or top 3, and then you move on. There's none of that. Once you're top 2 in your league, the top 2 from every league face off. So top 100 for the overall championship. And you carry over your season average into the championship round. So if you averaged 180 points for the season, you enter in the championship round with 180 points. And then it's a 3-week shootout against all the other champions. Combined total points for those 3 weeks plus your season average is the overall winner. So if you get, like last year, I just got, coolered on week 15 when, Brady just got shut down. And when has Brady ever been shut down? Right. And he gets shut down and some of my best teams were knocked out of these tournaments. Well, in this tournament, that allows you the chance to have a week 16, 17, make up for those points and get back in the shootout or get back in the race. So really like the concept that we did there. And it's the first to ever be done in that magnitude for a best ball tournament. So that's going on. There's also, you can start buying entries into the online championship and the world championship. Those are similar to the FFPC main event and football guys. And then those are some of the best returns in the industry. So if you finish first place in regular season and first place in points, then you get what's called a dominator. It's a $10,000 payout to you in the league payouts, which is pretty amazing. No one else does that. So a lot of cool stuff over there. And then one more plug, and I'll shut up, is the if you buy a max pack entry over there, max pack entries for the best ball tournament are only 18 entries. You get free VIP access into the VIP suite in Vegas when we draft in person. So that's a pretty cool little perk.
That is a pretty cool little perk. Okay, awesome. And Wheeler said he will be drafting a few of those next week. Thanks for that, Wheeler, off the Schneid.
Wheeler.
A few others were able to hop in. Eagles here, Eric B. There were a lot of great drafters. This was a relatively tough room. There are just varying rooms from time to time, just as you see on other platforms. But tonight was especially fun having Billy come in. That'll do it for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the Best Bell Fantasy Podcast, make sure you do wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you check out the Best Bell YouTube channel, where I'll be doing drafts like this with guests like Billy and other studs in the industry. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. In the meantime, good luck in the best ball streets, everyone.
Good night.